Hey guys, we are live here in the Arctic Encounter, and we're going to give you guys a few moments to tune in and enjoy what our polar bears are exploring. They just came out on exhibit, so they have a lot to find. As you tune in, let us know you're here. Let us know that you can see everything, and we'll give everybody just a few minutes before we start talking polar bears and getting to know Bo. And just so you guys know, you are looking at Bo and his mom, Crystal, on exhibit here. And we are on the inside of the Arctic Encounter, and so we can follow them wherever they go on exhibit. All right, we're getting some people tuned in here. Let's give a few shout outs as we're getting started. Hi, Teresa in Georgia. Grayson and Carter, thanks for joining us. Colleen says, hi, Bo. I'm sure he would say hi if he could. Hi, Alyssa. Eileen, they are so cute. That's why we just had to bring them to you guys today. Hi, Emma and Lennox. Hi, Chris. Jennifer, thanks for tuning in from Michigan. Oh, much love from Jackie. Good morning, Kimmy. Hi from Zoe. Hi, Libby and Sean. Good morning, Morgan. Oh, thank you. Mommy Chambers says we're the best zoo ever. We may be a little biased, but we think so too. Hi, Ethan and Natalie, Addie, Amanda. Hi, Pat. Hi, Julia and Corrine. Hi, Allison in Northern Indiana. Hi, Olivia. Thanks, Kelly. We appreciate it. Hi, Brady. And Bree's Little Bees from Bowling Green. Hi to the SEAL team. Hi, Jessica and Owen, Taylor and Ben. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Before we get to know Bo a little bit better, we have a few announcements for you that we wanted to give. Today, we are in the Arctic Encounter learning about the polar bears, and we will be back live on Monday for our next one. We'll be doing these on the weekdays, but still tune into our social on the weekends because we have some fun interactive posts for you guys too. But we will be back live on Monday at 10:30, and then every weekday at 10:30 we're going all around the zoo. If you guys have ideas of things you want to do, drop us a message. We'll see what we can make happen for you. And we wanted to let you know we have changed our homepage, ToledoZoo.org, to reflect all of the things that we're doing during the closure, to keep connected with all of you. Some new offerings that we have. Our catering department is making home-cooked, chef-created meals, grab and go, that will be available starting next Tuesday and Thursday. All of the details are available at ToledoZoo.org on the homepage. Look for grab and go meals. I believe our first ones are going to be enchiladas, beef or chicken, and pasta. Check those out. We're creating them for families, and you can order and pick up online, and we'll even bring them out to your car. You can pick them up at Broadway. So check that out. And also, we're doing some educational virtual classroom opportunities. So starting next Thursday, our education department will be going live on Zoom, and they'll be doing actual classroom lessons, worksheets, and everything. You guys can connect with them for a very small fee. It's $3 for members, $5 for non-members, and you can get an actual classroom lesson all around the zoo. So check that out. Also, the link is available at ToledoZoo.org. So now that we're done with our announcements for the morning, we have Alex here with us from the education department, and she's going to talk to us all about our polar bear family.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Kim.
Yeah.
So we're here at the polar bear exhibit, and like we said, we're looking at Bo and Crystal. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how cool these animals are and how they have some really neat adaptations that help them to survive in the wild in the Arctic where they're from. If you don't know about polar bears' fur, that's one of their really cool adaptations. They have this kind of long fur that goes on top and a dense underlayer that really helps them to survive in the Arctic and keep them nice and warm. In fact, it works so well that male polar bears can actually overheat if they run for too long, so they have this really good insulation. Male polar bears also have this really thick layer of blubber underneath that fur. It's about 4.5 inches thick, which is crazy. So that also helps to keep them warm even better than their fur, because wet fur can be kind of a bad insulation, which is why they try to always keep themselves clean so they can stay nice and warm. They spend most of their time in the wild wandering around long distances looking for their main source of food, which is seals. So seals are one of the only types of food to get the amount of fat and nutrition that they need. Here at the Toledo Zoo, we feed our polar bears a little more balanced and varied diet of fish, and sometimes they even get lettuce for treats, and they get fruit and vegetables and kibble.
Can we have people verify for us just to see?
Hey guys, we're getting a few messages that some of you can't hear. Can you let us know, send us some messages, let us know if you can hear us, if you can hear Alex, if you can hear Kim. We're working behind the scenes here to try and fix it, but let us know.
All right, so I'll just keep talking about our polar bears. Let us know if you can hear us. So a couple other cool things about them, they are their feet. We get a shot of them a little bit, we'll see they're big. Their feet are like 12 inches across, which is really cool. That helps them to stay balanced on the ice, helps them to pull seals out of the water. They have these really long claws that are like 2 inches long. Awesome.
We should have sound.
All right. Says we're getting some sound from you guys. We're going to keep working on it, but we're going to turn you back to the polar bears here, and that way you guys can check them out, and hopefully you can't hear us too well. We're still working on it. Stay with us. We're trying here.
Everybody says it's better, so it should be working.
All right, we're gonna keep going here. Hopefully things will get a little bit better. Alex, you want to give us a little recap of what you just said?
Oh yeah, sure. So we were talking about some really cool adaptations that these guys have to survive in their Arctic habitat. Starting kind of outward on their body right now, you're getting a really good shot of Bo and his fur. If you think about their fur, they look kind of white in color, right? But that's kind of a little bit of a trick because their fur is actually clear in color, and that helps them to reflect the light, and that light kind of reflects to keep them warm as well. And that also makes them to look white. Underneath that fur, they have a layer of black skin that helps them to keep warm as well by absorbing some of that light. And then beneath that, they have a really thick layer of blubber or fat that helps them to keep warm while they're swimming as well.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to take some questions from you guys. I'm going to scroll back here and try and start a little bit at the beginning. And let's see here. All right, Michelle wants to know, how big can they get?
Oh, that's a great question. These are massive animals. An adult male can get up to 1,200, 1,300 pounds. Our polar bears here at the zoo aren't quite that big. Marty, the male, is around 800 or so pounds, and Crystal, the female, is closer to 600. So in the wild, the largest polar bears can get up to like 1,300 pounds. Females are a little bit smaller. They're usually around 650 pounds. When they stand up on their hind legs, they can get like 10 feet tall.
Wow. And Shelby wants to know, how long can polar bears breathe underwater?
Oh, that's a great question too, and I actually just looked that one up. Surprisingly, they don't spend a lot of time really deep underwater, so their ability to hold their breath is actually kind of like ours. It's just like a minute or two. They don't really spend a lot of time deep diving in the water. They're more spending time at the surface, kind of trying to drag the seals out of the holes that they stand around.
And Olivia, we see your question about the daddy polar bear, and our family is alternating on exhibit right now, so Mom and Bo will be out together, and then Daddy, Marty, our male polar bear, gets some time later in the day on exhibit. All right, next question here. All right, we're looking here. Bristol wants to know, how much food do they eat in a day?
Another good question. In the wild, generally, like we said, they eat seals. So they're actually only going to get a big seal every maybe couple days if they're lucky and kind of gorge themselves on that. Our polar bears here, they get fed every day, a more balanced diet, like I said. I don't know the exact pounds that they get. I think when I looked it up, it was 6 or so pounds, but our keepers can probably give us more information about that. Like I said, they get fish, kibble, and sometimes some treats of lettuce.
All right. And Quinn asks, how powerful are their claws?
Very powerful. They, like I said, they eat seals as their main diet, and what they'll do is they'll hang out right around a little hole, and they can swipe that seal up in one grasp of their paw, and that's how they hunt. So their paws are very powerful.
And they also use those paws for swimming,
Correct.
right?
Yep. So big paddles. You can see like they're about a foot wide at their biggest, and that's a great paddle for them to help with swimming.
Cool. And Brinley says, do they have predators?
They don't really have predators other than some of the things that they're facing with humans and losing their habitat, but nothing's really going to take down a big polar bear.
And Avery and Harper want to know if the polar bears allow zookeepers to touch them.
Ooh, another good question. These are one of our animals that our keepers don't really get in and interact with. They interact with them mainly through safety areas and different things like that behind the scenes, but they don't go out at the same time as the polar bears.
And Olivia asks, what's their favorite toy to play with?
Yeah, so that's a great time to mention some of the things that we're seeing on camera right now. We have a really great enrichment team here at the zoo that really makes sure that all of our animals get the mental stimulation that they need. I don't know if Bo has a favorite toy. Maybe the keepers would know if he has a favorite, but it looks like he's really exploring and playing with all the stuff that we have out here. So we have some ice and some balls, some different plastic things they can kind of move around and jump on. So some really neat stuff.
And Olivia, I can tell you from time that we have spent in here photographing and videoing the polar bears, Bo really likes his 5-gallon bucket that they make these ice balls in, and he loves to shove it into the water, fill it up, and then pour it on his head. We have watched him spend quite a bit of time doing that, and it's really entertaining. Ashley wants to know if their fur is soft.
Their fur is not very soft. If you feel it, and when we have our education classes, we do have some samples that we can show you, but it's pretty coarse and pretty rough to the touch. So that's better for insulating them when they go in the water.
Which we are seeing right now. This is awesome. And Bo is so wonderful about playing as a young polar bear. He is very inquisitive, and so our visitors get to see him in the water, on land, playing with his enrichment. Also, he plays with Mom at times, and he's a joy to watch, so I'm glad that he is showing off for you guys. Dexter wants to know, are polar bears and grizzly bears related?
Well, all bears are fairly closely related, more related to each other than they are to, like, say, a cat or a dog. So, you know, in a sense, they're related to each other.
And Ania wants to know how old they are.
Yeah, Bo, he just turned 1 in December, so he was born December of last year. So he's 1 year old, and then Marty, I believe, is around 23, which is the male, and Crystal's around 21 years old. In captivity, they can live up to 30. In the wild, they live a little less than that.
And that answers Asher's question of how long they live, so very cool. All right, scrolling down here. Lanely wanted to know, when the polar bears were over here, why were they licking that toy?
Yeah, so a lot of times our enrichment department, they will come up with different scents that are on things, or even like put their food into different items. So it's possible that that item had a scent of fish, or even some fish in it that they were kind of licking. So there he goes.
And Grayson and Carter, I think Bo has answered your question of if they can run or jump. You guys have seen him jump in and out of the water here a couple of times. And Rowan, you can see they play with their toys quite a bit. Kimmy wants to know if they're endangered.
Yeah, another great question. They aren't specifically listed as federally endangered, so that's just kind of a fancy term that we have for a designation, but they are threatened. So they are vulnerable to extinction and their populations are decreasing. So that is something that we try to work on here at the zoo by studying them more in the wild, knowing a little bit more about them and their habits. We support an organization called Polar Bears International that helps to save polar bears as well. Something else we're doing is planting prairies, which might be a little weird to sound to help polar bears, but that also helps with the plants that take some of the carbon out of the air, and that helps to save some of their habitat up in the Arctic.
Very cool. And Camden says, how much does a baby polar bear weigh at birth?
Oh, that's a good question. One of my coworkers told me that they weigh about the size of a Chipotle burrito when they're first born, but really it's like about a pound, and they're about a foot long, and they have some little bit of hair, not a lot of hair, and they're pretty helpless when they're first born. So that's why when they're denning, the mother stays with them for a while they're denning.
And Tess, yes, there is another polar bear. We actually have 3 bears here at the zoo. You're looking at Bo and his mom, Crystal, and we also have Bo's dad, Marty, here. And Bethany would like to know what's the temperature of their water.
Oh, the temperature of their water. I don't actually know the exact temperature of the water that's in their exhibit. I know they keep it cooler for them. Usually in the summer they try to keep it cooler. In the winter I don't think they need to do much change to it.
And Brady wants to know if they eat whales.
Oh yeah, so generally a polar bear can't like hunt a whale. They're not going to get in the water and take one down, but a lot of times they are opportunistic, so if a whale was on the beach, they definitely would eat that.
Very cool. Sophia, our polar bear's names are Bo, which is short for Borealis, which is part of the name of the Northern Lights, Aurora Borealis, which can be seen in polar bear habitat. And Bo's mother is Crystal, and Bo's father is Marty. Let's see. Aaron asked for Dexter, how do polar bears have white fur when their skin is black?
Yeah, so like I said, their fur is super thick. So even though their skin is black underneath, there's so much fur there that's really going to be all that you're seeing. And as I mentioned earlier, their fur is actually clear in color. It just reflects that sunlight off, just like we know from like our colors. It reflects all that sunlight, so it makes them appear white. Sometimes they appear even yellowish, because when they eat seals, they get some of the fat in their fur.
Very nice. And Owen wants to know, how big are their teeth?
Oh, their teeth. They have pretty big teeth. I don't know the exact number of inches, but their canines they're probably like an inch or 2 long. They have pretty sharp canine teeth.
Rowan wants to know, what do polar bears do in the summer?
Yeah, here at the zoo, as you can see, we have an amazing exhibit here at the Toledo Zoo that's really, really great for our polar bears all year round. They have this pool that will help keep them cool. They also have a little cave that is kept at a pretty constant temperature that's cool for them in the summer. So unless it's super, super hot, they can still come out on exhibit in the summer, and they do have an air-conditioned back room as well that they can go into.
And we're getting a lot of questions about what they eat and their favorite treats. Can you recap that for us?
Yeah, of course. At the zoo, we feed them kind of a mixed diet of fish and kibble that has vitamins and nutrients in it. Occasionally they'll get some bones as like an enrichment and a treat. And one of their favorite treats to get is actually romaine lettuce, which is surprising.
That is surprising, but they need to eat their vegetables just like we do, right?
Exactly.
And we're also getting a lot of questions again about, is their fur soft? And we've touched on this a little, and as much as Ashley says she just wants to pet one, A, probably not the world's greatest idea, but B,
yeah, it's pretty coarse, and it's not like your cat or dog at home. It's not going to be very fluffy to feel.
And Grayson asked, can they swim? And absolutely, you're seeing Bo swim right now. Sawyer wants to know, do they fight with each other?
You know, the mom and the baby Bo will occasionally kind of have some little bouts, as you do when you're home by yourself during these times, but you know, they're not hurting each other. Occasionally in the wild, males will maybe fight over a female, but otherwise here at the zoo we keep them nice and safe, and they're not going to be fighting much.
And occasionally we see them getting into little play fights, you know, where they're just playing with each other. Samuel and Mackenzie want to know if babies have a special call for their mothers.
Ooh, that's a good question. I've never heard of that. That's something I could definitely look up. I'm sure the mother can recognize her babies in some way, whether it's a call or what they look like, but I don't know for sure.
All right. Charlotte wants to know how old a baby is when it leaves its mom.
Yeah, they stay with their mom in the wild at least for about 2.5 years or so, until they start going out on their own and finding their own ranges to kind of walk around in.
And talk to us again about how long they live.
They can live in the wild up to in the wild they live about 15 to 20 years, and in captivity they live up to like in their 30s.
And Julian wants to know, why are they pushing the toys in the water?
They are just really going all out to play. As you said, Bo likes to get that in the water and kind of push it around. It's just their playtime for them.
And Drew wants to know, besides their color, what makes polar bears different from other bears?
Yeah, they are the largest type of bear, so that makes them a little bit different. And because they are so well adapted, he's running back up. Because they're so well adapted to the Arctic, they have some special adaptations that other bears don't, like some of the things we've talked about with their blubber and their fur and their big paws. So definitely a unique kind of bear.
Yeah. And how many polar bears live together in the wild, Riley wants to know?
Yeah, so generally they're pretty solitary in the wild. They're going to be wandering around looking for their seals and their meals. Generally, if you see polar bears together, it might be a mother and her offspring that haven't separated yet.
And Barbara asks, if you want to be a keeper, what do you need to study in college?
Oh yeah, great question, and I love answering that question. Really, to be a keeper, a lot of times we recommend studying a biology area or an animal science area. Generally, you need a 4-year degree, but there's some different ways that you can get experience. I think to be a keeper, the number one thing they're looking for is animal experience, whether that's volunteering, being a zoo teen here at the zoo is a great way to get experience. Working at a pet store, anything like that you can get hands-on experience with animals.
Awesome. And Eli asks, what kind of fish do they like to eat?
I believe that we give them herring. That's something, I'm kind of guessing that, but I'm sure if they found any sort of fish that they would try to eat it.
And let's see, Jerry wants to know, how fast are polar bears?
They generally try to saunter more than run because they're trying to conserve energy and not overheat. Max speed, they can go like 25 or 30 miles an hour on like a sprint, but that's only for a few seconds, and then they're going to saunter and kind of keep their pace pretty slow.
Trevor would like to know, what's the scientific name of polar bears?
I believe it's Ursus maritimus, so that's like sea bear.
Yep, very cool. And Avi wants to know, how well do they hear?
They have pretty good hearing. I would say that their best sense is their sense of smell. They can smell many, many miles for those seals. I'm sure they have pretty good hearing, but I don't know what the range of their hearing is.
Camden and Juliet want to know if they live at the North Pole with Santa.
They do live at the North Pole. That is their habitat, so they live up in the Arctic Circle. A lot of people think they live around penguins, but penguins are from the South Pole, so you'll never see a penguin and a polar bear overlapping.
And Gabby says, do you celebrate their birthdays?
We do. We usually try to give them some special enrichment, and maybe even like an enrichment in the form of like a birthday cake, something like that. So we try to give them some special treats on their birthday.
Very nice. And Lily, I think she just answered your question about, do polar bears ever eat penguins? They don't go that far south.
Yep.
Bree would like to know, how tall are they?
Yeah, when they rear up on their hind legs, they can reach up to like 10 feet or more. With that, their arms up to their shoulder, it's closer to like 4 or 5 feet.
And Mark asks, since polar bears are endangered, what should we do to protect them?
Yeah, another great question. As I always say, learning more about polar bears is really the best way to help protect them. One site that you can go to at home is called Polar Bears International, and that's a really fun thing to do at home because you can actually see where polar bears are in real time. Something else that's kind of fun is if you're into gardening right now, if you're stuck at home, you can actually make a garden that could help polar bears by planting native species and species that are around Ohio. That helps to reduce our carbon footprint here in Ohio, and that's one really good way to help polar bears.
Very cool. We can all do, just a little bit. Even as simple as turning out lights when you leave a room helps. Turning off the water when you're brushing your teeth, that helps.
Yep.
Every little bit we can do.
Absolutely.
And Drew wants to know, how far can they travel?
That's another really good question. And hopefully at the end I'll get to show you a little map of kind of where they're traveling. In their lifetime, they can travel like thousands of miles over the ice. They, most scientists don't think they have really big ranges as much as they have just kind of wandering. So they found one that wandered like from Alaska to Greenland and all across the Arctic Circle. In a day, they can travel 19 or so miles in one day, which is a lot. I wouldn't want to travel that far.
No, that's quite a bit of walking. And Jet and Joey want to know, how long do they sleep?
How long do they sleep? Polar bears, like some other animals, they kind of have a little different cycle than us. They kind of can go dormant for a couple hours at a time, maybe 8 hours even. But generally, they're kind of going to mix up sleeping and walking and looking for seals. And they do go into rest for kind of like a hibernation, but it's not really a hibernation. The females do.
Very nice. And Madison's asking, are all polar bears that playful and curious as Bo and as clumsy?
Oh man, well I think Bo is the best polar bear, so I don't know. We'd have to have a little competition amongst the other zoos to see, but baby polar bears are pretty playful.
Yep. The ones that we've seen here, Hope and Bo, in the past few years have been quite active. As they get older, we don't see as much out of them, but it is fun, and we are very lucky here at the zoo. We have had great success with breeding polar bears, and we have had quite a few babies, and so we have been very lucky to see all of the clumsiness, the curiousness, and the playfulness. Let's see. Mark wants to know, do you think these polar bears are more active because there's people here or not people here?
Ooh, that would be a fun experiment to kind of track them. I think they're active right now because they have so many toys to play with. So they don't really care if people are watching them. If they've got toys, they're going to have a good time.
And Rowan asks if they make noise.
They can make some growls and grunts, and if they need to, some even louder noises. But if there's no need for them, they're not going to just be growling all over the place.
And why do we separate mom and cub from dad? Andy asks.
Yeah, so really that's just kind of a safety thing. We want to make sure everyone's safe, and if Bo starts to get playful, Marty could get a little bit more rough with him, but that's just more for their safety.
And Carrie asks, how long is a polar bear pregnancy?
Ooh, that is one that I didn't exactly look up. I don't know exactly how long their pregnancy is, but I'd be interested to go find out.
Yeah, that'd be a cool thing to Google.
Yep.
I'll give you something to check out, guys. Let's see. Next question is, Haley asks how long polar bears live.
Yeah, they can get into their 30s in captivity, and then in the wild they're going to have a little lower lifespan, closer to 15 or 20 years.
And Juliana asks, can they eat people?
Great question. Just like any other predator, they have the possibility of if there was a human-animal conflict, but as long as we're leaving them to their space and we're in our space, there's nothing really to worry about.
And Tanner wants to know, how good are they at climbing?
Climbing? Well, we see them climbing all over their exhibit today, so they are pretty decent at climbing. They can't scale a wall like a gecko or anything like that, but they can get up there and move around and climb if they need to.
Very cool. We've got a few questions here about how cold the water is. We don't have an exact temperature, guys, but we do know that they do chill this water, so it is cold for them because it would be what they are, would find in the wild, and they do keep it colder in the summertime, but it is chilled water for them. And Gianna wants to know if we have a garden to grow the lettuce that they like.
We do grow some food here at the zoo. I don't know that the lettuce is the food that we grow. We do have a really great commissary department that helps us get all of the veggies and fruits and stuff all ready for them, so I'm sure it comes from the commissary department.
Yeah, And we're getting quite a few questions too about babies, polar bears. Can you talk to us a little bit more about, when they're born, how small they are and helpless?
Yeah, exactly. So the mother polar bears, they basically will den up for a couple months, and what happens during that time period is they lower their heart rate a little bit. Fun activity for you guys to do right now if you want to get a little active. We can actually affect our heart rate too by doing some jumping jacks. So if you want to do some jumping jacks, you can see we can raise our heart rate, but we can't really lower our heart rate like a polar bear can. So that's one way that they conserve energy to care for that baby. When it's first born, it's really small. And so it's like about the size of like 2 sticks of butter or a Chipotle burrito. So it's like about a foot long and a couple, like 1 pound when it's first born, and then it rapidly grows while it's feeding on its mother's milk. And then after a couple months, they emerge from the den, and they're kind of learning to hunt and be a polar bear.
Yeah, and that mother's milk is, I believe I read, somewhere around 33% fat, so they do grow very quickly.
Yep.
And when they're born, they don't have teeth, and they are pretty helpless, so they are dependent on mom, and that's why she stays in there to get them big enough and strong enough to go out into the world. And if they were in the wild, they'd be going out to the sea ice.
Yeah, and you might remember when Bo was born last year, we made the announcement where we didn't get to see him for a little bit because he was still growing, and we weren't comfortable with him being in this big tank because he was so little. So he had a little practice tank behind the scenes to learn how to swim.
And we have a really cool little dig yard that gets him used to, after he comes out of the den, that gets him used to different surfaces and allows him to play and roam in a safe manner. And then they build him a little pool so that he can get in and out. And then eventually he graduates to the big pool. And as you guys can see, he has mastered that and absolutely just loves playing here. And Nate wants to know if these polar bears were born at the zoo. And as she just said, Bo was born here. And we have had great success with breeding polar bears. You guys might remember Hope, who was here a couple years ago. And so, we do breed polar bears here, and we are very lucky to have young polar bears for you guys to see. Let's see, some more questions here. Quinn, she said earlier that our fish are fed, or the fish that they eat are usually herring.
I believe so.
Yep.
I can check that out.
Yep, and they can stay under the water about as long as we can. And Evelyn, we just talked about them denning and hibernating, so let's see what else Sherry, we are not zookeepers. This is Kim. I am in the communication department, and Alex is in our education department.
Yep.
Let's see. Talk about the predators in the wild.
Well, polar bears, they don't really have any natural predators in the wild. They are the apex predator of their ecosystem, so they're at the top of the food chain. What they're mainly preying on is seals. That's their source of prey. And
Nora wants to know if they have a daily routine.
They have somewhat of a daily routine. So we have wonderful keepers here that really keep good care of our animals and make sure they get all they need. So generally they're coming out on exhibit sometime in the morning, getting some time to play and be active outside. And I know they generally try to rotate the female and the male so that they kind of get some different time outside. So they have somewhat of a routine and some different times that they get fed, but they try to mix it up too to keep them enriched.
And Xander wants to know if polar bears take naps.
Yeah, in the wild, it's all about conserving energy, especially up in the Arctic. So they will take some naps to conserve their energy, kind of slow down a little bit, and then they're back up to moving. So I think napping is a better way to put it than sleeping.
Yeah. Amelia and Bella, hi. We're glad you guys are enjoying this, and we can't wait for you guys to be able to visit too. Heather wants to know, how many polar bears are there in zoos?
In zoos? That is a good question. Across the U.S., I don't know the exact number of polar bears that there are. I know that just from our small little family here, Crystal has had many babies and many grandbabies as well that are in zoos throughout the country. So if you look out for polar bears, there's a chance that they might be related to ours.
That's very cool. Hi, Tucker. Hi, Tanner. We got some shout outs coming in here. Miles wants to know, can polar bears have twins?
Yeah, twins is actually the most common number of babies that polar bears have in the wild, at least. So they generally have 1, 2, or 3 babies at a time.
Hi, Jessica. Good to see you. And let's see here. Jackson wants to know, if you ever saw a polar bear in the wild, what should you do?
That's a great question. Hopefully that doesn't happen to any of our viewers. I would say it's probably best to just give them their space, back away as slowly as you can. Don't like run or go crazy or anything, but hopefully that never happens to any of you that are watching.
And Carrie says, do the polar bears react when you say their names?
That's a good question. I don't personally get to be back in there and really talk to them much. I know their keepers have a pretty good relationship with them, and I imagine they might know their names like other animals at the zoo, but yeah, that's one that I don't know.
Colin says, are their birthday cakes the kind we eat, or are they fish cakes?
Oh, we would not want to eat their birthday cakes. Ugh, yeah, they're made of fish and different like meat usually, and usually it's like in an ice, so it'd just be like a meaty ice cake. Probably not the most delicious.
At least
for
to
us, yes. For them, wonderful.
Yes. And Jack says, how do they not slip on the ice?
Oh, another good question. We've talked about their claws and their paws a little bit. Those are their really good adaptations for being on the ice. That big, broad paw helps them to get traction. They also have these little things on their foot called papillae that are like little nodules that help them to also stay put. And then, of course, their claws are going to help them not slipping. So they're really made for walking on the ice.
Yeah. And Kayla says, are they nocturnal?
So in a sense, so nocturnal is an interesting word for an Arctic species because, as you may know, in the Arctic you get times that it's all light and times that it's all dark. So polar bears have to stay pretty active to find their food. They prefer to be a little more active when it's cooler and darker so that they're harder to see for the seals. But like I said, it's all dark or all light sometimes, so those words kind of get a little mixed up.
And Sophie asks, do they eat bananas?
They probably would eat a banana if you let them eat a banana. I don't know if that's in our diet here. I know they do get some fruits and vegetables, maybe occasionally a banana, but...
Yes, they really are showing off for the camera today. They are enjoying this, aren't they, guys? Well, let's see here. We have gone through quite a few questions. Let's give a few more shout outs before we call it a day. Hi, Lane, Ella. Hi, Noah. Hi, Claire. Hi, Jackson, Emmy, and Parker. Oh, thank you for tuning in and saying thank you for us. But we're doing this for all of you. We want you guys to be able to stay connected and still to be able to see these animals that we all love. Hi, Rowan. Hi, Elias and Emily. Hi, Haven. We love polar bears too, and we are so lucky that we have Marty, Bo, and Crystal here for everybody to enjoy. Hi, Olivia. Hi, Gabby. Hi, Isabella. Hi, Sophie. Hi, Kaylee. Hi, Leslie. Gabby, Sophie, Juliana. Thanks for tuning in. Hi, Quinn. Hi, Radiance. Hi to the Watson family. Hi, Adeline. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hi, Aiden. Hi, Parker. We look forward to seeing you guys all next week. And as we said, we'll recap our little announcements from the beginning just so that you guys have them one more time. We are running a Facebook fundraiser to help sustain the zoo during this closure. We know it's difficult for everybody out there, but we certainly hope that if you're able, you can make a donation to continue bringing the zoo to you while we're closed, and that we'll be here for a long time in the future so we can all enjoy these animals together. And do check out ToledoZoo.org. We have changed our homepage to reflect all of the things that we are doing while we're closed. Still opportunities for you guys to get involved. Alex in the education department will be offering some virtual learning classrooms. You can sign up for those. It's $3 for Zoo members, $5 for non-members, and those will be on Thursdays coming up. And also our catering department and our executive chef are offering grab-and-go meals that you can order and pay for online and pick up at our Broadway gate. That will start next Tuesday and Thursday. Again, all the details are found on toledozoo.org. Keep following us on social, on our website, and we will be back live with you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe, and goodbye from our polar bears.